Welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th anniversary podcast. On this day, 10 years ago, Tuesday, November 26th, some stuff was going on in the world. The number one movie was The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. I know, times have really changed. I don't need to tell you that Royals by Lord was the number one song because it seems to just keep on going. Tina Turner turns 74. R.I.P. She did not make it to 84 this year. Alec Baldwin's Up Late show was canceled after 5 episodes because he yelled a gay slur at a TMZ cameraman. He said cocksucking F word. I'm not going to say that one, but I don't mind saying cocksucking on here. But the most important thing that happened on this day 10 years ago was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 9th episode, Repairs, aired on ABC at 8/7 Central. Hello, I'm Jamie Jarek, and I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. novice, Tony Paletto. Hey, Tony.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, everybody who's watching and listening. Thanks for tuning in with us.
Oh, it's an exciting one because today we are joined by our good friend, Senior's exclusive writer for Screen Rant, Caitlin Tyrrell.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Caitlin.
Caitlin!
Welcome to the show. Fun fact for all our listeners, as soon as we're done with this podcast, Caitlin is just going to come over and watch Kill Bill with us. So it's going to be a really fun day.
Her second Tarantino. Everybody put her on blast.
No, don't do that.
Thanks.
I'll
for sure come back now, Tony.
Really, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fandom, how much?
Oh, Jamie, you've accidentally muted yourself.
Yeah, here we go. You muted yourself, Jamie. Okay.
I'm unmuted. Sorry, I unplugged my. I was talking so seriously with my hands that I unplugged my microphone.
Well,
that's what you get when you're. Oh, you know it. That's how we do. All right. So, we like to start off talking about what we were doing 10 years ago today. Tony, what were you doing 10 years ago?
10 years ago today, I was captaining a river barge that was operating in Appalachia, bringing mineral ore from Chattanooga into Kentucky.
Fascinating. Caitlin, were you also doing something fake 10 years ago?
No, I was a freshman in college and for sure was watching the show. So
amazing. I love that. We for the audience, Caitlin and I went to the same college, but I had already graduated, so we just missed each other. But shout out to the Columbia College of Chicago people listening today. I'm sure there are dozens of them. So I looked at my time hop and I had one picture and it's of my friend Molly wearing a turkey hat. So I think that means 10 years ago it was Thanksgiving. Shout out to my friend Molly and her turkey hat. That seems like what I was doing. But I do want to say I know I like to cheat because we're supposed to talk about 10 years ago, but 4 years ago today was actually the best day of my life. Number one best day, hands down. I'm sure you can guess what that is, Tony. Like the best day of my life.
Is it the day you met John Travolta?
It is the day I met John Travolta. Happy 4th anniversary to the day John Travolta told me that I was his biggest fan, because I am. And speaking of fans, we got some amazing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans who have been listening to us in podcast form live. I love how some of you are like really getting into Tony's journey, because somebody was concerned that I took a photo of you, Tony, when I got your reaction to May and Ward last week. And they were like, Tony's going to know something's going to happen. I'm not sitting here with my phone pointed at Tony's face, you guys. Do not worry. I just have my phone in my hand because I'm taking notes. And his shocked face lasted so long, I had enough time to hit the camera button and turn it to him.
Yeah, to clarify, I held that expression of what the fuck for a good 35 seconds, mainly to get a laugh from Jamie, but it also served as a good opportunity for her to take a photo. So no, guys, don't stress. Jamie and I watch the show. Seriously, she's very good at not spoiling things for me. We can leave that to Brett Dalton.
I was gonna make the same joke, but now I don't have to.
That.
Whoops. And as always, hello to our friends in the chat.
Yeah, guys. Thank you all for being here and interacting with us. This is a friendly reminder. Tag your spoilers. Just write spoiler alert before discussing anything that happens on the show after this episode. Producer Maria Sportalozzi is monitoring the chat, so she's keeping an eye on you guys. And it's just to protect people who are like me, coming at this brand new, so that they can watch it un-Brett Daltoned.
Oh, poor guy. It really wasn't his fault. I'm thinking about it. That Thanksgiving photo I posted 10 years ago, it couldn't have been Thanksgiving because it was a Tuesday. So I guess I was just really late. Yeah, I guess I was just really late on sharing that photo of Molly. I was really, really confused for a second. But all right, Caitlin, you said that you were probably watching the show. So you were watching the show as it was airing the first time around.
I definitely remember watching the first season because, like I said, I was a freshman in college, so I was in the dorms, so I had to fight for the TV. And then I think I watched up to about the start of season 5, and without getting spoilers, I was not as engrossed in the superhero world. It got a little too weird for me.
Okay. That's fascinating because season 4 is my favorite season. So, but you made it kind of far. Yeah, you made it far, so that's impressive. And I do want to shout you out for the fact that you did rewatch. I told Caitlin was over on Thanksgiving on Thursday, and we lost. Annie was going to be our guest this week. She has a good excuse; they always do, so we don't want to put Annie on blast either. But I was like, Caitlin, and you want to be on the show this week? And Caitlin was like, I'll watch all 9 episodes, and she crushed it. So thank you for that.
Love being a fill-in.
Yep. We'll have you on with more notice in the future. Don't worry. But I am curious, since you just binged all 9 like in a day, did one stand out to you as the best?
I mean, honestly, this has always been one of my favorites from season 1. This one and what is it, the FZZT one where they where Simmons goes out.
She said FZZT too.
See,
you're not the only one. It's like an.
Is that not sound. What it is? Oh, I wasn't going to do that.
I was saying it spelled out as well. That seems to be it.
Is it really the electrical sound? Because I've never known that the entire time. Wow. Okay. Well, those are probably my top 2. I like because they to me feel like some of the more character-driven ones and character growth ones in the early part of the season. And it also feels like when the show to me kind of was starting to mesh and get in the right groove.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you really like this episode, but we're going to talk about that. But first, we got to talk about what the episode is. We got to make sure the audience knows that we're talking about repairs. But I actually, before we talk about repairs, I do want to Tony to share a fun story. We cannot stop running into the people involved with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Last week, I interviewed Ming-Na and Brett. And Tony, who did you meet this week?
I met Jed Whedon by chance through my work. I came across that man. I said, Jed, right? And he goes, yeah. And I said, my girlfriend and I, you're not going to believe this. We host an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast. And he goes, oh, no way. His eyes lit up. And I was like, okay, good. I can have a brief conversation with this man. And I said, yeah, she's a big fan. We're on our 8th episode. She's seen it countless times. I told him that you moderated the 100th episode panel, and he was like, "No way!" And I said, "Yeah." I said, she's seen it a bunch. I'm watching it for the first time," and he said, "It gets better." Like immediately wanted to reassure me because that's literally what everyone says, like including apparently Jed Whedon.
Season 1.
Me too.
Well, Jed Whedon,
he's probably heard so much. He's probably been berated for the last 10 years from people who don't like it. But I think in his heart, he knows it's good. He just has to, he's used to saying it that way.
Yeah. So he was very, very nice. I told him the name of it, so I guarantee he's probably in the chat right now. We should just.
Hey Jed.
Hey Jed. Thanks for popping in there.
It is Marissa Tantrum's birthday in 2 days, so happy early birthday to Mo. We love you guys so much.
Yeah.
It's so crazy that we started this podcast and now we've checked like 3, but like I couldn't talk to the actors about the podcast. It was cool that you could talk to Jed about the podcast.
I did, I got to tell him about it.
Yeah, your job doesn't restrict you from talking about this podcast.
No.
By the way, in the middle of this 4-minute interview, let me just tell you about the side thing I'm doing for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Caitlin does what I do, and so she knows that it's a strict business. But okay, so this week's episode 9, Repairs, written by Jedmo. Good week for that. It was directed by Billy Gerhardt, who directed 11 episodes throughout the first 4 seasons. His directing credits include lots of stuff: Sons of Anarchy, Jessica Jones, The Walking Dead, Once Upon a Time. He also directed the scrapped pilot for Marvel's Most Wanted. We're not really going to be talking about that much until season 3, but I'm about to blow Tony's mind. Tony, we almost got a spinoff.
What? A spinoff of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah, it was called Marvel's Most Wanted. I'm not going to tell you anymore.
Can't tell you anything about it.
Yeah. You'll learn
Literally
more.
The title is about the best you're gonna get right now.
Yep.
All right. That intrigue. I'll wait a couple of years, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just gotta go back to this conversation.
Yeah.
Book it, Maria. Pin it. Remember. So for the cast, obviously, we got our core 6. We guest stars. We had Robert Baker as Tobias. He has a ton of TV credits, including Supergirl, not Super Bowl. He also had a small role in the movie Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And while we're dropping things that Tony can't know about, you know who else was in that movie? Joel Stoffer, an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan favorite who Tony will meet in about 5 years. So a lot of exciting future business going on. And then we also
taking notes,
have
Tony.
Yeah,
calendar.
That we actually should. How do we get a 7-year calendar? Does that exist? Because that would be actually really cool. Maria, Google it. Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a lot of work. Also in the episode, Laura C. as Hannah. Fun fact, her first ever acting credit was playing Emma Stone's friend in Superbad.
Oh, cool. Huh.
Yeah, I know.
Unsurprisingly, I haven't seen it.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're going to talk about that because I'm not surprised, but is it too late to see Superbad for the first time? No. Is Caitlin? No, Tony says no. Okay, we're gonna watch. That's gonna be a new Patreon episode. Caitlin's gonna watch Superbad.
You could have an entire Patreon series of just me watching movies.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Yep, me too. It's been a fun journey knowing Caitlin because we get to introduce her to stuff. But all right, episode synopsis. Coulson's team thinks they might have found a new Index member when a woman starts displaying telekinetic powers. But things aren't exactly what they seem. Will this next adventure help the team grow or pull them further apart? I don't know. Caitlin, what did you think of this episode? I know you like it, but give me a little more.
Were you the voiceover person for the teasers? What's that going on?
Oh, that was the mild version.
Yeah, that was
better than what ABC used to do.
Well, thank you.
No, I love this episode. I think it does a really good job of showing very important parts of characters that we haven't seen a lot of. Like with May's been very mysterious throughout the entire series so far. In this episode, we get to see not only the key parts of her character, but we learn about it through Coulson, and through that learn more about their relationship. We get to see Fitz and Simmons being idiots, which is always fun. And then we get to her weaknesses are really shine through in this episode, I think, in a very cool way. And then, Ward's Ward.
You can say that again.
Tony,
yeah, he's never stood out to me. It's okay, cool, you're good at punching things. Good for you. Like every other dude. Like every other dude on a procedural show. Good job.
We got to get another gay man back in here just to give Ward a little bit of love, because I feel like we've just been so harsh on him, and that seems to be the crowd that goes for Ward. Tony, what do you think of this episode?
I didn't really like this episode very much, and the thing that I did like about it most was what Caitlin said, and that's getting into May and getting into her history and what makes her strong and interesting. I thought that this antagonist Tobias, who I'm sure we'll get into, his living in between two dimensions or realms as in this sort of grief place, and the tangibility of that felt really thinly drawn, and then it also felt it felt like a weird combination of metaphysical and spiritual, and I didn't think that it was harmonious, and I didn't really like I didn't like it conceptually. I didn't like it, and furthermore, the formula that I've come to enjoy, which is there's these little mini twists in so many of these episodes where it's like, this person is not who you thought they were. I think I'm just beginning to get a little conditioned to that. So they were like, she's telekinetic. And I was like, no, she's not. I just know she isn't. Like, I know she's not telekinetic. I know there's something else going on here because there's always something else going on here. It's more than meets the eye. And so it was just kind of like a waiting thing. So I wasn't crazy about it.
Tony, I'd say the actual procedural part of this episode, not super strong.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Tony, I'm with you 100% on this. When I talk about my season 1 bottom 4, this is a bottom 4 for me. While I love the May stuff a lot, it is why this episode isn't skippable at all, because of the May growth is so important. I really hate the main Monster of the Week story. It is so Angel season 1 coded. And I think you really nailed it with like well, we'll talk about that later too. The unharmonious religion versus science-y weird. Like I totally agree with you there. But yeah, it is just not a favorite. That whole main story I find to be very obnoxious. But when it does come to the characters, absolutely, there is good stuff in here. And so let's just kick it off. Let's just dive in, because we start.
Can I make one argument about the religion in this world thing? Conceptually could be done in a very interesting way. Wrong show for it. Because exploring what religion looks like in the world of Marvel really could be interesting, because you have like Asgardians who are the basis for an entire mythology and religion. You likely have other aliens, which got touched on in the episode before this, where they're kind of like, I bet other aliens are kind of gods from other things. So having that could be really, really cool. Not the right show, because it is such a procedural.
I think you're so right. And, we do know now in these later movies that there are like 15 heavens in the MCU. Like, just whatever you believe in is probably going to happen to you.
You're probably right.
Yeah, exactly. That is funny. And I think you're totally right. And I do want to like the character Hannah. I like this performance that she's giving. We start with her in Utah. She's trying to like buy some milk or whatever, but she's, getting harassed because it turns out she caused an accident at the plant where she works. People died. Now her neighbors blame her. But twist, she appears to have telekinetic powers and she can't control them. So, Tony, you already absolutely said what I knew you were going to say, which is that you knew this wasn't going to be that she was telekinetic. You saw that coming a million miles away. And I love that that's what I was going to ask. But I do want to ask Caitlin about this opening scene. Where were you in your mind when you were watching this now, all these years later?
That guy's a dick.
Yeah.
Like, like that to me, I think kind of stood out for the Hannah character overall, just in general. Everyone's horrible to her, including the dude who's like the bad guy, I guess, because they're like, oh, he liked her. And I'm like, no. He harassed her in the workplace multiple times by putting other people in danger and jeopardizing her job. What do you mean he liked her? He's horrible. He had an obsession with this woman who did not care for him in that way. That is not something to be, that's something to be like, cool, let's send him to the netherworld or wherever the hell he's stuck.
Yeah. I do agree that there was
for things like this.
There was way too much empathy for that, like trying to engineer empathy for that guy in the climax of this episode. And I was like, no, he's right there, Ward. Shoot him. Like, May got him. May got him subdued. Pop that dude out. Like, I had a problem with that.
I agree. It's the only thing that's really interesting to me about it is the fact that of what happened to him, which we can jump ahead to that, where, we find out that it was Roxxon that they were working for. And this is a corporation that has been mentioned in the MCU many times. They're trying to get a portal, and Thor's name is dropped because Thor can travel between worlds. And that's interesting. There is a slightly cool undertone of greater MCU stuff going on here. It's just not really executed in the best way. But it is neat that you find out that it is a Roxxon corporation.
I completely missed that.
Yeah.
I feel like they focused on the wrong thing in this episode for that main story. I think they focused too heavily on the whole demon hell Christianity thing, where it should have been the twist for the team should have been like, wait. They punched a hole in the dimension?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We probably need to do something about that because they're just like, oh man, that's so cool, and never speak of it again. And I'm like, did it fix it though? Is there just a hole here now and you guys left? What is going on? Like, that to me is one of the things, like, early Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I do feel like didn't necessarily do as well a job with that, but I also can't necessarily blame them because I feel like that's just overall Marvel not being as cohesive.
Fair.
Yeah.
I do like Caitlin's energy of this doesn't make sense. That's
that's my energy because I've done that to you in movies and then you get mad at me.
Oh, but I do love it. Nothing was better than watching Caitlin watch Cruel Intentions. I felt like her brain was melting out of her ears.
That was another one where I'm like, why do people like this lead actor? He's weird and annoying and just looks sad all the time.
Well, speaking of hot people that Caitlin don't think is hot, we got it. Ward and May are hooking up. I'm sure Caitlin thinks May is hot, but I Ward and May hooking up again. Like, at first, for a split second, when they showed the hotel, I thought it was a direct immediately after the last episode because they aren't in hotels often. But no, they made it clear that this is it has happened before. It's so funny. He's trying to be all stealth strategy and then she just walks out, and the way Tony and I cackled when he walked to the bus and she goes, "You're late." Oh my God. So good. I love it. It's funny. I took a May Ward poll on Instagram and basically did emojis, and nobody went with the heart emojis. Everybody hates May Ward. I know, here's the thing. I'm not shipping them as endgame. I don't want them to be some big romance, but I do really enjoy them fucking each other. I think it's interesting and it's funny and it lends for some fun content. Tony, were you surprised that they're hooking up again, not just after their shared traumatic event?
Not at all. I think I said at the end of, I was pretty taken aback by them hooking up at the end of the last episode, but no. I thought about it and spoke last week that it makes total sense. She knows he can probably throw down. She knows that he can practice discretion, and I think it's a completely symbiotic sexual relationship with nothing gooey getting in the way in terms of feelings. So I feel like it makes perfect sense to me. I don't know if there's going to be some sort of fallout with it. Maybe Sky is going to get jealous. I don't know. But it just, I like knowing that May has a sexual appetite and that she picked the best fuckboy candidate on the team.
Yeah. I like that. People in the comments are saying some good stuff because Snowbat says, I mean, to be honest, good for May, even if she has questionable taste. Agreed. Alice says, I like May Ward as a storyline, but not as a ship. Agreed. You're all laying down some smart thoughts. Caitlin, since you haven't watched this in a while, did you remember that they fucked?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I immediately hated that the first time. And I was like, all right. Okay, it seems like you've been doing this whole Skyward thing, which I also was like, fine, whatever. And then that happened, and I was like, cool. That was kind of a moment where I was like, oh, I just don't like Ward.
Poor Ward. Oh, I feel like we should. Brett Dalton has done some of the one of those Hallmark Christmas movies. I feel like we should watch that just to get. Yeah, I'm sure this chat can tell me what it's called. Elizabeth Henstridge has done one too, but those aren't really for me. I don't like those.
Weird to me.
Yeah, no. So I haven't watched them, but if people in the chat know and want to drop the names of them, because I would watch them for the purposes of this podcast. But all right, so getting back on track with the episode, they all go to Utah. Things escalate more with Hannah. Coulson has this great dive and saves from that rogue vehicle. That was a really good Coulson moment. May jumps in and just uses the night gun on Hannah. No hesitation. We still got Jem out here struggling with the powers thing. Tony said out loud, "There you go again." Because Jem is really struggling with this.
They always have to have the scientific character be like, oh, I don't understand it. I'm like, bro, a portal opened in New York and aliens flew out and a bunch of superheroes appeared. What's your deal?
Exactly. Exactly. But she's still, she's still going for it. But so we find out that Hannah thinks God is punishing her and these demons are haunting her. She has that really nice door chat with Sky, although but honestly, the whole God is love thing, at that point, I'm kind of tuning out. I find the whole thing, we talked about a lot. It's not like it's a bad perspective. I'm just not really into it. But I do want to talk about the fact that May just shoots her cold. And we start to learn about May.
Yeah, it's a practical move. Like you're talking about when they capture her, like after she throws the police car and stuff like that.
Yeah.
May shooting her, is that? Yes. Yeah, I thought that
After the
was
police car is thrown.
yeah, post
Yeah.
police car. Yeah, no, it's a completely practical decision. Like that was not safe for her or anybody else, and obviously not ideal, but not her first welcome wagon, right? So I think she made the right call.
She also kept her from getting hurt. I think that's one of those things that gets like lost in the shuffle because it's like, oh my God, she shot her. Yeah, she sedated her and they brought her away from the mob that's been trying to kill her for whoever knows how long. So was it something that could have been done more tactfully? Maybe. But also that was a situation that was escalating so quickly that realistically just getting it done and taken care of is the right call. And it's not like she woke up in pain or anything.
Yeah. So I want to kind of spread out this May talk into 2 points. First, we have this really fun C plot of pranks because Fitzsimmons are the nerdiest duo alive, and they never got to pull pranks at school because they graduated early. I just love how adorable they are and how excited they are about this. I also want to point out that Tony was obsessed with Simmons' outfit in this episode. I love when Tony comments on random things. I didn't even notice her tie was the same pattern as her shirt.
It's hard to notice because it looks the same as her shirt.
Because it blends in. But it was really cute. I would wear that for sure. And so their first choice to prank Sky is by talking about the May Bahrain story, which, we've heard little tidbits of. We don't know why she's called the cavalry. And their version of it, she's riding in on a horseback. She saw a lot of hurt that day. I love when Gemma says that. But, Fitzsimmons tells that story kind of as a joke, but then Ward tells his version of the story. And then we ultimately come down to Coulson, who was there and knows the true version of the story. And he reveals that he and May were a welcome wagon for a gifted individual. They had no guns, but then things went south. And May kind of went in there and did what she had to do. Coulson says she used to be warm and fearless in a different way. And he's just trying to get his friend back. And I really love learning this May history.
Me too.
Can I also point out how deeply Ward misunderstands May?
Yeah.
Because he bases his entire story about this as like, oh, I understand her, but it's like, no, you so don't in any capacity. Mm-hmm. So that was something that was very interesting to me as well, just because it's like, he very much seems like he's trying to take on this big brother role in the group. And it's like, I don't think you actually understand how anyone ticks, dude. You're really bad at this.
No, the big brother of the group is May, and she's also the big sister and the den mother and the fucking uncle who's cool and Clark Greg's dad. That's it. Yeah.
Yes. But who does understand May? Clearly Coulson. And I love that. I love those seeds of their history. And I also want to talk about how Sky is really salty about May. And you can't really blame her because she only sees this cold version of her. And I really like how the true story of Bahrain ends with Sky understanding her a little more. She has sympathy for her, and it ends with her going into the cockpit with her and just sitting with her. And I really like that growth.
Me too.
I agree.
Me too. Yeah. It's such a Coulson called it out. He said, you are, this is kind of like what I think you're built for, because you have this curiosity about people. And even though she's frustrated with May, her frustration is, why doesn't she like me? Why is her attitude this way? So she has a curiosity about people, and she has a great deal of empathy. So yeah, it was. I love Coulson so much. He's my favorite guy on the show. I've said it a million times, but his forethought of and his insight into who people are and bringing out the best of them is, and that being people on his team or antagonistic forces on the show. He's always trying to give everyone the benefit of the doubt and see their better nature. So yeah, very cool.
Caitlin, do you have any other thoughts on May before we take a quick break?
I think it's interesting to learn pieces of her trauma because it really hammers home why she went from this character that was like not only warm and happy and was willing to pull pranks and stuff, but the specialist type that would then go and just fully live in this bureaucratic cubicle where like that sounds like a nightmare. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting to see how that trauma manifested. And then honestly, to me, I think one of the things that stands out with this episode with May and Coulson is just how young Fitzsimmons and Skye are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true. They're green as can be. And speaking of green, no, there's no transition there. That makes no sense. We are going to take a quick 30-second break. So refill your drinks, go to the bathroom, and we will see you back real soon. Hello and welcome back to Love in the Time of Hydra. We are here with our friend Caitlin Tyrrell talking about Repairs, the 9th episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We crushed through a lot of this episode, but there's still more to go. So, the Tobias of it all. We already talked about the fact that we found out he's not a ghost so much as he's trapped between worlds. There's, he worked for the Roxxon Corporation, which is mentioned a lot. It was a particle accelerator. May decides to use Hannah as bait. She fights Tobias. We realize the crush thing was going on. He was loosening those bolts on purpose. Very normal behavior. There was one point where...
Don't do that.
Yes, that... disclaimer, bad idea.
Don't cause safety issues because you have a crush at work.
Yeah, just ask them out. That's fine. Just ask them on a date. The worst thing that can happen is that they say no. Well, yeah, okay, you're right. Should you ask people out at work? Sounds like they weren't working together that often anyway. They weren't. So it's not. It's kind of a low stakes thing. If you're working together every day, maybe don't ask them out. But that's a gray area as well.
Read the vibe.
Yeah, read the vibe. Put it on a pillow right there. You nailed it. So there was during this fight at one point, May punches him so hard in the chest that both Tony and I went, oh!
Yeah, he was laying on the ground. He was laying on his back, and she did a sternum crack on that motherfucker. But my favorite was actually, he keeps doing this thing, Tobias, where Ward gets in a scrap with him, and he tackles him, but then he's gone, immaterial, out of his hands. It's like, where the hell did he go? May does that to him at one point, which was fucking dope. Like, he takes a run at her, and then he's like, whoa, where'd she go? And I'm like, that is so badass. She knows how to play by his rules. That was good.
Just deeply good. And then, finally they're like, he confesses, and then Hannah says, only God can forgive you. And May goes, he won't. Damn, girl.
That's why May is the best, because May is like, I'm done with this. Can you go? We're done with this part.
Like, geez. But then she gives that little speech, let the girl go, and then later we find out that those were the same words that Coulson said to her in Bahrain, which are interesting and a lot to think about. What does that mean exactly?
Yep.
Ooh, a lot coming together. Tony, you have to assume we're going to learn more about this, right?
Yeah. No, that's it. That's the entirety of all we ever learn about it for the show that was on for 7 years.
If this show can do one thing, it can be to hold out on some exposition and
you get one episode where you get a little bit of info, and that's all you ever learn about May. This is it.
We've learned all there is to learn about May, I think. No, there were some other things I really liked in this, though. I like when Fitz scared himself with his own dummy trap. It was fucking fantastic.
Right.
Coulson, we need to start creating a checklist, Maria, if we can. I think it's happened twice in this show so far, and once in Iron Man. But Coulson sets a little bomb, and he does his little arm cross thing, and it's such a signature pose. He goes, he puts his back to it, and he does this, and I like it a lot. Yeah. That's oh, I never saw the shield logo on top of the plane. Has that been there the whole time? I
Yeah.
never noticed it. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty neat, I guess. Is this our first? Did you first notice it just now, Caitlin?
No, I noticed it in the pilot.
Whatever, dude. Yes,
When
That
we
to me
talk-
is one of those. That to me is one of those things where I'm like, this is a secret organization, and they have their logo on fucking everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Jamie's thing too. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. We are going to talk about, the history and stuff, but there is some interesting stuff about the bus this episode that we will get to shortly. Also, we have that moment where Coulson rips out the old 90s tech and tries to use that because we lose power and the plane's like going down. And I enjoy that. Just a little Coulson having trouble with some old tech because he loves his old tech. It doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Betrayed.
One cool thing that we find out in this episode is that Coulson is kind of grooming Skye to maybe be in charge of the index, or at least he feels that she is the right person to talk to these people who are volatile and could be. And I'm like, oh wow, she still has that bracelet on. She's still not even level 1. She has a lot to prove, but Coulson clearly believes in her and sees a future for her.
I feel like realistically having someone that's not in the bureaucracy of it all is a better person. To me, wild that they do not have a psychiatrist that goes to these people. Wild that they're like, you know what? Let's have the special agent who goes on assassin missions. That's who should go and talk to someone who's in crisis.
I do like that she called them earlier. Skye was like, what did she call them? Oh, she called Ward and May
Warm and Fuzzy.
Warm and Fuzzy.
Yes.
I was like, that's
great.
fantastic nicknames. That's yeah. Thank you for calling out that they're pretty much the most intense, hostile people to go do an intervention.
And emotionally constipated. In no universe would I be like, hey, this person's freaking out. Can you go calm them down? Why would you send those two? Because they'd be like, yeah, and then shoot them with the night-night gun. They're like, they're calm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really good point. And maybe at some point that's something that'll happen. Who knows? I certainly
Here's
don't.
the thing.
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen with S.H.I.E.L.D., none of it's planned well.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But then we have the end tag. I love this end tag. It's my favorite part of the episode. Fitz gets whipped cream faced, and if it's gonna happen to anyone, it's gotta be Fitz. Poor little boy. And he's asking everybody, and then we get that little shot of May smirking. A little bit of May is coming back, and that's really sweet.
Well, I have some things to say about the post-credit scene. Not
Oh,
post-credit
you
scene,
don't-
the tag. Well,
you don't
it's
like
a little
it?
too it's a little too cheery, Everything's a little
Okay.
too wrapped up, a little nice, and yeah, I want to see May happy.
They
too.
won. Did you want them
Yeah.
to be sad?
No, but it was just a little.
They succeeded and none of them died. And Tony's like, ugh, why weren't they broody?
No, I didn't want to
No.
be broody. It was just a little too wrapped up nice. But the thing that bothered me even more than that, maybe you're right, but they were playing Upwards, which is like the dickhead version of Scrabble.
Was that not Scrabble? I just assumed
No, that was not
Scrabble.
Scrabble.
I did not notice
Upwards.
that.
Okay, I'll tell you about it. The Scrabble is, you put a word on the board and you combine words and everything. But Upwards is the same concept, except your letters are plastic, and you can have other letters go on top of them to cover them up, like little letter Legos. And so you can actually create a vertical game and cover a letter to make it fit your word. And I think there's players lose points or something if you use their word and alter it or whatever. It's such a dumb game. It's Scrabble's perfect.
I've
Scrabble's
never
a flawless
heard of
game.
this.
I had a board of it at my house growing up, and I didn't play it because I don't Scrabble doesn't need to be modified. So I was even more than the cheeriness. I was irritated by the fact that that's what they had on this.
I'm sorry. The fact that is your problem.
That's my problem.
See, it's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Unless it's just a really clever
this
90s
cute
reference.
Little nice moment, and you're like, they're playing the wrong fucking board game.
They are playing the wrong fucking board game, Caitlin. And I tell you, I want everyone to know. I hope Hasbro goes bankrupt after this. podcast.
I'm with Caitlin on this. You are focusing on the wrong thing. Like, they all live together on a plane. Of course, after an intense day, they're gonna unwind together, have some fun together. That's what
Jamie,
makes them
it's the game itself that I have a
right.
problem
But
with.
you're also saying that
Which
it
doesn't
was
make
too
sense.
cheery. It was too
It is too
cheery.
cheery.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
Is it too cheery because of the episode, or too cheery because they're playing a bad game?
I think it's too cheery because they all kind of recovered from the darkness and intensity of what they did more easily than usual. It just seemed a little.
You're thinking about that wrong, though, because you have to think about it in the same type of way that you would think of like firemen and police officers. Like, they're gonna get used to it, and the gallows humor is gonna start. So it's
Maybe you're
less
right.
of like they should be sitting in this moment, and more of like they've been doing this for a while now. They have to learn how to let it go if they're gonna survive.
Well, I'll tell you, I won't die on this hill, but upwards is gonna.
You can die on that hill. We don't
I'm gonna die
disagree
on
with
that
you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, good. That's where
I'm
I'm gonna go
totally
now.
with Caitlin on this one. Before we move on to talking about some history, I do want to shout out that our producer Miera did do some research for us about Brett Dalton's history with Hallmark. He has made 4 Hallmark movies, and 2 of them are Christmas movies called One December Night and Once Upon a Christmas Miracle.
Jesus, they just
Hold
don't
on.
try, do they?
Hold on. There are Hallmark movies that aren't Christmas movies.
I know there are. Yeah.
There's
There
Valentine's
sure
Day too. Yeah.
And just, sometimes there are
What?
mysteries, just some everyday romance. Sometimes people fall in love in the summer, believe it or not.
I was gonna say sometimes it's just the season of fall, and that's a movie.
Yeah, that happens. And then the other 2, Maria says, are called Just My Type, which she put in parentheses, somehow involves a dog, ? And Cooking with Love, which I'm sure we
Sure.
can decide that that's about a chef who falls
Are we
in
to
love.
allude that Just My Type is a
Or they're
bestiality
cooking meth.
Hallmark movie, or
Yeah, I'm sure.
okay, all right, good.
Now I'm catching back up on the chat, and Salty Shield says, "Let the board game go, Tony."
No, no. Thank you for chiming in. Happy you're listening and watching.
I love that you focused
Absolutely
on it,
not.
because I've for sure seen this episode multiple times. Never have I been like, that's not Scrabble.
You know what? I would like to recommend everyone try and play it. Just try and play it. If you like Scrabble, give Upwards a dry run and see how you feel about it.
So it's like mean Scrabble.
It's Scrabble for assholes. Yeah.
Well, as you know, I don't really like to play games, so I'm just gonna
Yeah.
take your word on it.
Thank you, Quincy.
But yes. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the history of this episode. The filming occurred from October 16th to October 24th. The gas station from the beginning was filmed in Santa Clarita, and the barn at the end was filmed at the Golden Oak Ranch, which is where they filmed some of Fizzed. So they're going back to reusing there. You know what's so funny?
Better.
Yeah, I get you. I was trying to pay attention to the music this week, but I didn't do a good job. Tony, did you pay attention to the music this week?
I said last week I was going to start paying attention to the music, and I did not.
Nope. Well, there were
didn't
0
either.
facts about it this week. It's the first episode where the wiki page didn't give me a single detail about the music. So
No Tobias theme, I guess.
Nope, no, Tobias isn't getting a theme, and if he did, they didn't deem worthy of mentioning it in this.
He's worthy of nothing.
Yeah, sadly true.
This episode had a lot less than normal in terms of facts, and I'm like, I guess I'm not surprised because there wasn't much going on. But I have been meaning to talk about the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1 Declassified book that one of our listeners recommended. I want to say Olivia. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. But it is a cool book that, they have a little blurb on each of the episodes. And I've been meaning to kind of go through it for each one, and I finally did it for this one. And one thing that kind of bothered me is they keep calling this episode a bottle episode, but that would imply that the whole episode was on the bus, and it wasn't. There are parts of this episode that's not on the bus. It would only really be a bottle episode if it was all on the bus, but this is a sensitive subject for TV people. Like, if you get like
Does
bottle
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
episodes,
have an
episodes-
official bottles episode?
I'd have to think about it. I feel like maybe, but nothing is coming to mind. But people also sometimes confuse bottle episodes for like filler episodes, and the the terminology gets mixed up. Bottle episode is like the Chinese restaurant episode of Seinfeld, right? Where it's one
Or the
location.
Community episode where they're stuck in the study room because they lost the pen.
With the pen, exactly. So to put bottle episode in the official declassified book kind of bothered me, but I didn't write it. What can you do?
Clearly.
Yeah, I guess you won't be using that book anymore.
No, it is helpful in other ways. In fact, one cool thing was, so the bus got expanded for this episode. We got a basement. The corridors and the supply closet are, so it's the book has a floor plan. And this is the first time that the audience kind of got a better idea of the modular floor plan of the bus. And I've just seen the show so many times that I never really thought about it, but it is cool. So like we're going to call it a half bottle because we are getting some good stuff in the episode.
You're a bottles half full kind of gal.
Yeah. Also, a bottle episode 2 is people are referring to a certain episode in season 3, which I totally understand why that one's coming up. But a bottle episode also has a lot to do with budget and a lot of like, we're only going to film in this one space because it's cheaper. And that episode in season 3 doesn't really count. But
I actually would argue this one can't be a bottle episode purely because they use parts of the plane that haven't been used before, which means they had to build out the set. Had it been only set in parts of the plane that had been used before and therefore not building new sets, then it's a bottle episode. Even if the entire episode was on the plane, it wouldn't be a bottle episode.
Yeah, it's such a loose term. Like people, it's gotten changed. I know that when there are episodes too that like focus really cool stuff, kind of like the season 3 episode people are referring to, that kind of go in a totally different direction. Like the episode of a big one that's coming to mind is the Last of Us episode where Nick Offerman and that's people are calling it like a filler episode, and that's not correct really either. No. Like it's just, I can't think of the correct term, but when you're focusing on something completely different, it still has a greater meaning for the whole universe. And
for gamers, it's essentially a side quest.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. But Caitlin's the one here who studied TV, so
got a degree in everything.
Columbia College Chicago. All right. Yes, I'm going to come back to more in the comments, but it's reaching spoiler territory, so I'm going to wait. So let's see. Yeah, I think that we are ready to kick Tony out. So Tony, before you go, is there anything that you want to say about this episode?
The golden retrievers were cool. I like those. Have we seen those before? Those were new, right?
The golden retrievers?
Yeah, the little gold orbs.
Yeah, they called them that. They were the gold orbs, like drone orbs that went to search for May.
Oh, that wasn't the dwarves?
No, they called them the golden retrievers.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah. I hate this show. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, no, I thought those were neat. Cool visual. I like the fun tech. No, I think I've expressed myself. Upwards sucks, and this episode was not great. So there.
Fair.
I'll say some thank yous.
Upwards ruined the entire episode for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you to Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials for doing our wicked artwork, and thank you Ryan Miera of Yellow Pills. You can find him at Yellow Pills Music on Instagram. And thank you to our producer Maria Spertolosi. Thank you, Maria.
You're welcome.
Tony, before you go, I want to remind the audience that there is no show next week. There was no Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that dropped on December 3rd. So we are not back until December 10th for the 10th episode, which is the mid-season finale, our last episode of the year. Tony, do you want to tell the audience who that guest is going to be?
Sure. Yeah. If everything goes to plan, we're going to have a lady named Molly McCook, a longtime friend of mine, a really good actor who was actually a guest star on that episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we have our first actor, honestly, first person on the show related to the show in any capacity. So that's very exciting.
So excited. I had met Molly a few times before I found out that she was in the episode. And as soon as I found out what episode it was like, oh yeah, I know who she is. Like, oh, totally.
Yeah.
And she has a little part in episode 10, and it's really cool that you have a friend who was in an episode of 82. I think
I
she's my
know.
friend now too, after all this
Yeah,
time.
I
I
know, for
also
sure.
consider her a friend. But I'm so excited. And I know that like she did this 10 years ago. I'm sure she
Oh,
was on
right.
set for very briefly, like a day
Yeah.
maybe. So like, we'll see what like her insider scoop is, but
Yeah.
just getting her on this and the strike being over in time was just really special and exciting.
Yeah, no, and she's a lovely person. I think she's going to be she's excited. We talked to her about this during the strike, and obviously couldn't get her on for those reasons. But we held her spot open in the hopes that strike would stop in time for this episode, and it has. So we're thrilled to have her. So I guess I'll just leave the room now.
All right. Goodbye, Tony.
Yeah. Bye, Caitlin. Bye, Maria. Bye, everybody. And those of you who are as caught up as me, let's go. Let's get out of here. We're going.
Oh, all right. Caitlin, curious, since you have not seen the final 3 seasons, do you have plans to go back and watch? Are you going to wait until Tony gets there? And do you know spoilers?
I know spoilers. I'll probably wait just because I don't even have time to watch current TV. So
Fair.
hopefully in like 5 years I do.
Yes.
No, like truly, I remember exactly why I stopped watching. I literally was like, I'm gonna go spoiler, and we can do that now, right?
You can spoil it, yeah.
Okay. I'm like, they're in space in the future? No.
Oh, okay.
I can't do that right now.
I understand. Like for me, that was so exciting and huge, but I get why, why that jump would not be for everybody. So respect, but man, it worked for me, and I think it's going to work for Tony. I'm really, really excited. And so I actually, this is something from last week that I forgot to bring up, and I did want to mention it before I forget, is that there is a moment in last week's episode where Skye says that piloting an alien ship is on her bucket list, and I love that the series ends with her pretty much doing that. That like I posted that screen grab and with kind of like an eye emoji because I know that people would get it, and people have been so good about not spoiling stuff in the comments on Instagram. Twitter's free game because Tony doesn't see that, but like I really appreciate that because I can post little teases like that without people pulling a Brett Dalton, as we now like to say. It wasn't his
I can't
fault.
wait until he finds out that this is his legacy.
I know.
Gonna be like,
it's
I didn't do anything.
Funny. Yeah, how it really was my fault for not kicking Tony out of the room. Like, who knew? I didn't know it was going to happen. But
or
I
not wearing headphones.
Okay. No, in my defense of that, I was recording the episode, or the interview was a phone interview, so I had to record it.
Yeah.
So
I got you.
I otherwise, yes, I would have been wearing headphones. But I do think it's so funny that everybody, all of our listeners, were just so relieved that Tony didn't get the real spoiler. Everybody has been like breathing, but it's just funny because Tony doesn't know that. Like he thinks he's gotten this big spoiler, and he has no idea that the real spoiler is coming so soon.
The spoiler that like Ward dies 3 times to me isn't even a spoiler. It's like, oh god, this guy never freaking leaves. Like that is more of what that is to me, because that's not the cool twist about Ward. To me, that was the most annoying part about Ward.
Oh well, yeah. Simon in the comments is mentioning a cameo, an important cameo in this episode, and I'm drawing a blank. So Simon, tell me who you're talking about, and then we'll discuss it because I'm not sure. And I do. So you brought up, Caitlin, the idea of a therapist, and I really do think that like that is needed. But Blair Underwood is going to show up in season 3 as May's ex-husband.
Yeah, I remember.
And he is the therapist, and I am excited just because I love him as an actor. But like you're so right, they should have a therapist.
I feel like all of them should have mandatory like weekly therapy because they're dealing with like insane situations all the time, and they don't do anything about it, and then it bubbles up and explodes.
Yes. Okay. Davis was in this episode. I totally missed him. Davis, iconic Maximilian Alinsky, who was recently on Ted Lasso, who becomes such an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. staple, apparently first appeared in this episode, and I missed it. Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and look now. I'm embarrassed. I keep saying I'm such a fake fan. Somebody, if you got the timestamp of when he's at, let me know so I can share it.
Or the screen
on-
grab.
Yeah, get a screen grab. Because I love Davis, and I do think because he's good friends with Jedmo, him and his wife, who's Deechid Lockman, who shows up in season 2. They're like best friends with them. So it's not surprising that he was kind of hanging around in this early. I knew he showed up early, but I totally missed him in the season. So thank you very much, Simon, for pointing that out, because I missed it. That's why we're a community. That's the beauty of this community. We help each other see things. Also, Alice in the comments, I want to shout out that you mentioned As I Have Always Been, the season 7 episode. I do think, yes, that counts as a bottle episode. A great episode. Loki kind of did something really similar in the Loki series.
Is that the Groundhog Day one?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. So
yeah,
that
I
was
would
a
say
good
that's
call
probably
out.
a bottle episode then.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I think that's totally the right call. Love that. I love that we're getting into TV logistics and everything. I think that is pretty much it for spoiler talks. Caitlin, is there anything else spoilery that you wanted to talk about?
I mean, just kind of piggybacking off of what I talked about earlier with the fact that I think Marvel was less coordinated, and it also circles back to TV logistics. The reason Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 1 isn't as strong is because they didn't have the freedom to do what they do, because they had to time it around Winter Soldier, which is a crazy requirement with being the big twist of the entire season. And I feel like that's partially Marvel not necessarily showing as much respect to Marvel TV at the time, but I also like Loki kind of not nice. Like, they could have figured out ways to make it a little stronger.
Yeah, and I think it does get better with age, though, because I enjoy
Yeah.
it. The more I know these characters, the easier it is for me to go back and watch these early episodes, because it's fun to see where they were at that point and knowing their development. Shout out Salty Shield Stan. Davis shows up, it looks like, when Fitzsimmons are playing with the dwarves. So I'm going to check that out. Love that we got some Davis. I can't believe I missed it because he's a really tall guy. I don't know, but I am taking notes, I guess. But so thank you guys so much for listening. Caitlin, where can the people find you? Where can they find your interviews? Caitlin's got a lot of cool D&D stuff for her interviews.
You can find me on Twitter at Caitlin_Tyrrell, spelled like that. You can find me on Instagram at Caitlin_Tyrrell_, and on the Screen Rant website, you can find me under my name.
For those listening, Tyrrell is spelled Tyrrell. As always, we are at Lido Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Love with when you interact with us, especially on Instagram, because I'm more active on there. Don't forget to follow us. Don't forget to subscribe on the podcast websites. Leave us those 5-star reviews. Ask us some questions. We love engaging with you. Reminder, there is no episode next week, but tune in Sunday, December 10th for episode 10 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Bridge, the final episode of the year. We'll be live on YouTube and Twitch once again at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you can't make the live stream, the episode will be up shortly after on all major pod platforms. Same goes for this episode. Everybody, have a good night.